As the coronavirus continues to dominate global conversation, you might read about people who are immunocompromised. The Centers for Disease Control defines this as persons with weakened immune systems.
To understand what it means to be immunocompromised, you have to first understand what the immune system does. And the immune system is the body's way of identifying and defending against foreign things like viruses, bacteria, fungus, cancer cells, etc. And the immune system is made up of cells and tissues and organs. So somebody who's immunocompromised then has deficiencies in this, and they're not as able to then ward off infections and other sorts of issues that can arise.
You probably know someone who has an immunocompromising condition. They can be as common as asthma or diabetes, or as severe as cancer.
There are categories that are considered high risk, such as being over age 65, and then being immunocompromised is sort of a subset of the people who are at high risk. So somebody who is immunocompromised may either have an inherited disorder, they may have an underlying condition like diabetes or asthma that puts them at greater risk. They may be taking medications that actually suppress the immune system, or they may have actually an overactive immune system that impairs its function, like in autoimmune diseases.
My parents noticed it when I was very little because they went to take me to get my measles vaccine, which is very common, and I ended up getting the measles, which is not common, doesn't often happen. But it was a sign that something was not going right in my immune system.
Jackie Green is 26 years old and lives in Washington, D.C. She has been immunocompromised for much of her life.
White blood cells, most people have them, and that's how they're used to fight infection, right? Something foreign enters the body, and white blood cells are there to save the day. They're there to fight against infection and inflammation. So I don't really produce those.
Jackie has a low white blood cell count, so her body does not produce enough interleukin-1, a type of protein released by white blood cells at infection sites. Interleukin-1 attracts and activates other cells that help fight off infection and injury.
What somebody might get is a 24-hour bug, for instance, would become a week-long issue now that I have my medication that I take. Before, it could end up being like a 2-week issue, or, like I'm sick for a month or something, because I just don't have the inflammatory response needed.
People with immune compromise or immune deficiencies are at high risk for a few reasons. One is that they may not have the typical symptoms that somebody has. For example, they may not mount a fever, which is one of the hallmark symptoms of having coronavirus infection. In addition, they may not be able to fight off as well the infection when they get it. So they may be more susceptible to more serious infections or more serious consequences of the infection.
It should be something that people in our age group just act as if like it's a possibility they could get it. Anyone close to them could get it, not just their grandparents or somebody in the abstract. Like it's a real thing. You don't have to look sick to be sick,
I think a lot of conditions like immune deficiencies, people will dismiss them because somebody may look like they're fine on a regular basis, but aren't understanding what patients are going through and the risks that they have. For the rest of us, I think it is just important to be aware when we're interacting with other people that they may in fact have one of these underlying risk factors, and do our best to respect and keep the boundaries that we need to in order to keep them safe.